And we are live. What is up, my dear friend Eric Ma?
The ceiling. I'm sorry, I have to do that every single time, Hugo.
You do it to me. You get me every time. Welcome everybody to this extra special live streamed workshop, building session, whatever we're actually doing here with Eric Ma, building tools for thinking with AI with Eric Ma, who leads research, data science in the data science and AI group at Moderna. Did I get that right?
Almost. I accepted a new assignment in the company to also manage the clinical development data science team. So it's two teams now. It's a lot.
I firstly,
I didn't tell anyone. I haven't announced it on anywhere. It's just like quietly just doing my job.
well, congratulations, and
Oh, Hugo.
my radio DJ round of applause for that. I'd just like to welcome everyone to live Vanishing Gradients workshop with Eric. Our Q&A will happen in Discord. I put that on YouTube. That's so we can continue the conversation afterwards. Please do join us there. Introduce yourself and let us know what your interest in such things are. We're building a community, so it'd be good to get to know you. Carol Willing has just said welcome, Eric. Sadly, she's going to miss most of the talk. She says it's a good thing that you are super organized, Eric, and I totally agree with that. I will
I hope
also
so.
say, do check out the Vanishing Gradient Substack, which I've linked to in the description. And this talk or workshop process, live build, was originally scheduled as part of a course on building AI applications that I co-teach with Stefan Krautchik, my friend and colleague at Salesforce. And we decided to take it public just because Eric has an energy that cannot be contained in any
Oh,
course.
man.
But I do want to say
Okay.
that we're just wrapping up the final cohort of the course, and we're working on a few more things. And I put a survey together to just find out what you all are interested in learning, and I'll put that in the Discord, and it's in the YouTube description as well. So if you are interested in learning more, please do check out that survey and find out what we're up to next. Also, do check out Eric's blog, which I will just link to right now. I always accidentally type in Erica Ma data blog. It comes up with other things. I'm gonna shush myself now and ask you, Eric, what are we doing today?
Yeah, we're gonna build a tool for thinking, and um, it's kind of a little. So today I'm gonna try to recreate what I've built before. It's called Canvas Chat, and Hugo, if you have a link to the Canvas Chat, then I'm happy to share it, or not. I'm happy to share it later. Basically, I over in January, I
It may
asked the
actually help
question
if
to
you
myself.
just bring it up quickly and show people what
Yeah.
we're moving towards.
Okay, cool. So let me, oops, wrong one. Let me share my screen. I'm going to share my screen now. So allow screen sharing. And let's share this window. I'll share the entire screen. Do you all see my terminal? Oh, great. You do. Okay.
Yes, and just if you can zoom in as much as possible for you, and I've just linked to your blog post in the Discord, interface for thinking with LLMs. And I'll just say by way of introduction, Eric did, I think it was just before Christmas maybe, you messaged me and you were like, hey dude, check out this thing I'm working on. And I was like, wow, that looks super cool. And the way you framed it was AI is so powerful at so many things, but there aren't necessarily affordances that help each of us personalize the existing vendor tools with respect to what we need as thinking partners, building partners, that type of stuff. So one example is in Canvas Chat, the ability to branch conversations. Now, some coding assistants like AMP have the ability to do these types of things now. But one thing I'm really excited about is just how much you've been building up things that help you, and not You said you were vibe coding, and it isn't vibe coding, but it isn't what we used to do either. And it isn't just AI assisted software development.
Yeah.
It's in this kind of interesting, messy space where you understand many of the things that are happening, not necessarily all of them.
Yeah.
So let's have a look.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll show it over here. Basically, I built a thing that allows me to chat with AI, and I'm just going to quickly authenticate into GitHub Copilot so that I can use some of the free models that are being hosted up there. So I've authenticated. I'm going to hit save, and I'll create a new canvas, a new chat. And the premise here is that like chat is linear in most of our chat sessions. And what I was wondering was, can we make chat nonlinear? So, tell me, regular chat, you'd go, oh gosh, yeah, Gemma, 2B, don't want that. That's running my local models. I would like to use 4.0, which is a little bit more powerful for this. So like regular chat, if I did like, hi, GP4.0 will reply. I can continue replying, tell me a joke or something funny, right? And it'll just do its own thing, but that's kind of boring, right? What I was wondering was, what if I could do crazy types of chats in which, for example, I was able to do um, something like this. So what if I could take this guy and just go riff off based on this one, a new joke, right? And it'll do that one. It'll do like, why don't skeletons ever ask for help because they're too boneheaded? Haha. Okay. But then I could also do another one, which is riff off on just the guts. Another joke just based on guts, right? And this guy, right? Why did the term, okay, whatever, didn't have the guts to look away, etc. And so this allows me to do branched chats, and it becomes really, really useful in other kinds of scenarios where, for example, if I were to open a new canvas and take a quantum computing paper, quantum computing Alexei Galda, this is my colleague and teammate. He published this paper, and I kind of was curious about it, and so I thought about doing something like fetch this one, and it'll fetch the paper content from archive, and then I can start probing various parts of the paper in separate chats. So for example, if I were to do like, what's conditional value at risk? Okay, so then I can get a definition of CVAR, which is a thing that he included inside there that I didn't really understand. But then also, what is VQE? I can do that, and on a separate chat, do things like this, right? So what I was trying to do was like find a way, like it started with a very simple premise, which was just, well, I don't believe chats should be linear because life to start with is is non-linear, but also it's like if I can have a branching chat, I can do all sorts of new crazy other things, right? So for example, I might take these two branches and I would want to reply to both of them together and go, great, now give me a high level overview of just these two points, right? And it'll do that with the context, of course, but CVAR, it'll explain CVAR for me in variational quantum eigensolver, whatever those two things are, which I'm still learning, by the way, because I manage my teammate Alexi and I need to catch up with that information. This gives me a tool for exploring ideas on the canvas with AI assistance and finding ways to really understand how I'm like where my gaps in knowledge might be, just by doing if I have the facility to do branching chats, then I can do I guess you could say I could do things like explore one idea on one branch, explore another idea on another branch, and bring them back later together. But it also gives me I'm going to do one final thing, which is I think the coolest one that I was able to copy over into Canvas chat. It's called the committee feature, and if you know about LLM Council by Andre Karpathy, I tried to re-implement that in Canvas chat just for funsies to see what it would be like. Tell me the best ways to learn quantum computing. So I could ask a model taking on multiple personas. So let's try, let me see. I'm going to take a chance and try to use Opus 4.6 for this one, just in case my usage limits on GitHub Copilot have reset. So I'm going to use 4.6 on each of these, and I'm going to have the LLM take on different personas. One is the quantum physics researcher, a self-taught programmer, and a STEM educator, and ground their opinions with web search, and include reviewing, and they're all going to go start if my tokens have not hit their limit. Let's see. If it doesn't happen, then I will redo this with, oh, there might be an error. Okay, let me try this one more time. Committee, find me the best ways to learn quantum computing. I'll do this with 4.0 instead. So AI is going to give me its 3 suggestions. Do that again, and let me just split this all up a little bit more. So the Opus ones will ignore, and actually I'm going to do force directed layout. Opus ones will ignore, and we'll go to just the 4.0 ones. There's the 3 AI models in parallel doing their own thing, responding, but then they're also going to continue this. It's a little confusing here. So if I go down one, and there's a review stage that's happening in which both models worth like one LLM will review the other 2 LLM outputs, and then after that it will do the synthesis of the outputs together and tell me what I synthesize an answer to my questions, right? So that's kind of what I was very excited to be able to implement this, because it meant I could like explore ideas from multiple different angles and personas, and it for me is kind of like a way of a tool for aiding in thinking. If, for example, I want to anticipate how someone might be thinking, I could change the persona myself in the LLM committee window, and therefore use that to do things. Yeah, there was more that I probably like. If I were to continue demoing everything
Well,
that's in
let's
Canvas
actually
chat, we'd
stop
do the
there.
whole.
I think
Yeah, we should stop.
because
We
I
should
think we
stop,
should
right?
dive in.
Because
I
I
do
have
want
a
to say a
video
few.
series that's
Yeah,
coming
let
out
me say
on
a few
like the
things.
components of Canvas chat. Sorry, Hugo. There's
Yeah,
a few things that are coming out for what exactly is capable in Canvas chat, but the real thing that we want to do today is try to recreate it and show the purpose, show the process, sorry, by which that came about. Right, back to you.
exactly. And my goal really is to help people understand how they can build their own tools as well. You've built something for yourself that other people are finding useful as well. But I want people to be able to. So, when building out AI applications, for example, we need to look at traces and have data viewers for our traces and that type of stuff. And the ability to generate custom viewers
Mm-hmm.
help us with annotation tools and that type of stuff is so
Mm-hmm.
powerful. And this is another version of that, the ability to generate something for yourself and your team or community or whatever it is as thinking tools. Of course, we need to be careful. Sometimes we tend to like build out too much because we get excited and we end up with
Mm-hmm.
branches of branches. But I
Yep.
do also want to say Carol has just written each block could be exported to an Obsidian page, and I actually think of Obsidian and Zettelkasten and different types of knowledge graphs when I see this. Carol also mentioned she always wanted a branching Jupyter notebook to caption different scenarios in a graph, which is related. And Pascal has asked, and maybe we can get to this later, would this be like sort of a sub-agent approach in a way? And I suppose we can chat about that now briefly. My answer is in some ways. I mean, sub-agents essentially are just tools that compartmentalize context
Yeah.
and information, right? So that is
Yeah.
happening here in an interesting way.
In a slightly, yeah, I guess you're right. In an interesting and slightly different way. There's subagents are basically like connected component subgraphs, I guess you could say, on in this one. But yeah, that's a technical detail.
Awesome. Well, let's
Okay,
jump in. And I just want to say, your wife practicing music in the background is so beautiful. I'm gonna try to have a musician join every live stream going forward.
that's my
Just a reminder
kid.
for those joining. Uh, just a reminder for those joining right now. Please do join the Discord. Ask any questions there. Introduce yourself there. Let us know who you are, why you're dialing in, and what your interest in these things is.
Okay, cool. So let's get started. So I just released a new version of PyDS CLI, 5 minutes before the workshop. So let me just double check that on PyPI it is the latest version. So release history 20 minutes ago. That's great. So we're gonna do a new project, and 0.6.14 is the one that we want. 0.6.14 Python 3.12. There we go. Yep. So I'm gonna initialize a new project, and this is actually step 0 in my opinion. This is step 0 for building stuff with AI. You actually want to rely on templates that you have for scaffolding out new projects, because they really help you bootstrap a very opinionated tech stack that you or your home team would be comfortable with. And so that's what I'm using here, this cookie cutter Python project that I created for myself for new Python projects that I'm working on. So
And
we'll
would you
call this
mind just
Canvas
zooming in
chat.
a bit, Eric?
Yep, we'll call this Canvas chat 2, Canvas chat v2 live coded. My username and my full name and my email address. All right, so it's gonna do its thing. It's gonna get started. Oh, I have something to, and so I'm basically scaffolding out, right, like my favorite stack of tools, and you'll see live streaming what tools are being installed. While this is cooking in the background, I guess I can show real quickly. Cookie cutter Python project is where I would go, and to see what are the what's the opinionated stack inside here, you can take a look at it right there. There's matplotlib, pandas, scikit-learn, etc., typerjax, etc. So it's just stuff that I like to use. My encouragement to everyone is you should do this for yourself, for your home team, etc. So once it's done, I'm going to do this guy. There we go. It's going to continue doing things. It's going to ask me, do I want to create the GitHub repo? Let's just double check. Canvas chat 2. Not there yet. It'll come in a moment. Fix the issues and retry. All right. And skip and manually handle later. And yes, create it. And oh, shucks. Okay. That's not a problem. So we'll do, okay, git init. And I'm just going to open up OpenCode right here very briefly. Use the GHCLI to help me create a new repo on GitHub. We'll just have it do that for me. So I will need to upgrade and double check my GitHub CLI then. So not a problem. Ask me more options. Canvas chat 2, and it's public. All right. Oh, no worries. Just set remote to Canvas chat 2 for me. All right, so while it's doing that, GitHub and canvas chat 2, remote V. Okay, good. And let me just make sure that over here we have it available. Why is it not showing up? Okay, git push. Sorry. Something is going wrong, and I'm not exactly sure what's going wrong. I get 404 on this. Why is that happening? Meanwhile, because this is going to be a UI build, yeah.
While that's happening, can you just tell us you're using Open Router and
I'm using any model that I can get my hands on, Hugo. I don't have an opinionated LLM that I want to use because I don't want to be locked into any particular provider. I have a sort of aversion to being vendor locked in, and it's bled through really clearly in my preferences at work as well, in which, yeah, I basically don't try to keep myself from being vendor locked.
yeah, I know, but I
Great.
know, for example, you like use Cursor a lot as well. So I'm just wondering what you're using at the moment.
Yes. So this is Minimax M2.7 on Open Router within open code that's running in CMux. So it's like its own stack, one half of the stack that I use. And then the other half of the stack that I use is Cursor. So I'm going to be opening this up over here. Let me open the project. We do GitHub and Canvas Chat 2, and we open this guy. Wait, hold on a minute. There we go. All right, here we go. So while CMux is running in the background, or sorry, OpenCode is running in the background, I'm going to start by describing what I would like to build.
And could you zoom in here as well, just so we can? Yeah, great.
To build a thing that allows me to chat with AI on a canvas. Please do this on an infinite canvas. The idea is that each node is a message. They're linked by edges. I have different message types, e.g. human versus human or AI message. I need the ability to configure LLM providers. I much prefer using Light LLM. And I know Light LLM recently had a security breach, but they responded really quickly, so I have no hesitation recommending them nonetheless, even with the security breach. I think it's like, kudos to them for catching it really quickly. So for routing to various LLM providers, I also want if we start simple, then it's basically Light LLM for routing various LLM providers, use Fast API plus Svelte, as I want to use, there's something that I want to use, which is Svelte Flow. I've never used this before, but Svelte Flow apparently lets you do things like this. So Flow. So we'll paste the link in for context. And also, I guess I'll just add Svelte over here to the project as a plugin, since it was recommended by Cursor. As I want to use Svelte Flow for node link diagrams. Let's keep it simple for now. Speed run the planning with me, and we'll switch to planning mode. Okay.
Okay, great.
So
While
we'll
that's
start with
planning,
that.
I've got a few questions and things I'd like to. There's so much happened in there, and I want to index on a few things. The first is you put it in planning mode. Okay, well, it's the last thing you did, but it's important before executing. Plan, and I know there are different ways of thinking about this, but it's some sort of minimal spec driven development. Okay, so I'm going to say a few more things. The next is you link to current documents, got it to potentially connect to a current MCP server, skills for a particular project to make sure that it's using what the project needs now, as opposed to trying to use code or tools from its weights, right? The
That's
third
right.
thing is you have an agents.markdown here, which we haven't talked about, which actually contains a, an interesting amount of information that will guide the planning and all the next steps as well. There are lots of other
Yep.
things, but I do think planning, agents markdown, and making sure that it uses current versions of whatever we need are three important things happening here.
Yep. You nailed it on the head, Hugo. So I got not much else to add.
Okay.
If we continue, which front-end scaffold do you want for Svelte Flow? This is new for me. I actually don't really know how to use SvelteKit. I've never used Svelte before. I've just heard of it and think it's a cool idea. I've heard of Vite and I've wrangled it before. So today I'm feeling adventurous and I'm going to go with option A. And then for this, for V1, how should Canvas chat data be stored? When I designed Canvas chat the first time round, I did it with in-browser storage to make it easy for me to host it somewhere and then people can go to wherever it's hosted and go there. But then the storage of data was all local on their machine. So today I'm going to try something different from what I did the last time round and try to treat this um more like a what do you call a proper I guess you can call like a proper desktop app instead, because like the original implementation was host on a web server anywhere, but the data is still stored in IndexedDB and local storage inside the browser, which is kind of a weird thing. So I'm gonna try B just to have a little bit of fun today. Um, okay, cool. SvelteKit plus SQLite, it'll do its thing. It's now composing the plan. There's a typer CLI, so it's already done its homework. This is great. The reason why, I want to have a Python package scaffold is so that this sort of stuff just becomes available to the coding agent as we go along. And then that helps with constraining some of the design space that the coding agent might want to take. All right. Um, cool. So there's a
One
bunch of
other thing I'll note
architecture.
that's
Yeah.
interesting is some things you're opinionated about. Like I want you to use Svelte. Other
Yeah.
things you're like, I don't know that much. Let's go. And it's interesting how over the past year, I used to be pretty opinionated about what tools I wanted my
Yeah.
coding agents or software development assistants to use, and now I'm a bit more like, you may know better than me.
Yeah, and I think that's a neat thing that's happened over the year of me coding with coding agents, which is it's come to the point where I know what I don't know when I'm confronted with new information. And if a technology like or a text if a tech stack or a toolkit is old enough to be well established within whatever domain, odds are it's probably part of the LLM training set, and so we can go with what the LLM is recommending. But on the other hand, if there's stuff that we know is genuinely new, I need to come in with a strong opinion or consult another human, right? That knows the
Yep.
stack. Like our internal stack at Moderna is 100% not going to be inside any training data. So that means, I need to come in with a very strong opinion about how things are done there. Uh, cool. So there's the back end. It's got these backend depths, etc., MVP API endpoints. Okay, nice and simple. It's doing conversations ID nodes. All right, cool. Front end plan, scaffold new app with SvelteKit and TypeScript. Install XY Svelte. Okay. Typed node data model with message variants. Okay. This is going to be, from my first time building, I know this is going to be very important. Wire this up, config and secrets. Okay. I skimmed it all. In a real situation, I would be a lot more nitpicky. But in the interest of time, I'm going to hit build and see how far we get. We're
Love
going
it.
to do
And
stuff. We got
while that's
time.
I am interested in just talking a bit more about spec-driven, design-driven development, because this is a minimal version of it, and I know you have thoughts on when to use it. And I think you actually always use it, except when in pure exploration. But how much to use when, do you think?
Yeah. First version of Canvas Chat, or first version of almost anything, I don't bother with any of the frameworks for spec-driven development, because fundamentally I'm trying to feel out the problem and the solution space together. There are, in the product development land, there's all this talk about like don't solution before you you know the problem. I'm of the opinion you can't know your problem deeply until you've built a wrong solution. So just build. And if it's wrong, you'll feel it, right? Like, yeah. So first version, never really go too strictly. But once we know that the space of the problem and space of the solution well enough, it's helpful to actually rely on spec-driven development tools and frameworks and whatever to get you from the high level design down to the most granular spec that you can then use as context inside the docs directory right over here to then harden the intent so AI doesn't go off the rails so much. Like, it's part of the context engineering that you have the intent, the specifications guiding the coding agent from the documentation side, and you have software tests constraining what the coding agent is allowed to break from the coding side, right? Like, it's double the constraints, but not at the earliest stages. You'll notice I didn't even really bother checking for what kind of unit tests we'll have here either. I want to feel out and make sure that this thing is doable. So at this stage, it's actually very in the words of my former colleague Christy DeGenova, this has a low level of formality, and so there's no need to put in all the tests, put in all the specs. But once the level of formality goes higher, that's the time to put in the specs, to put in the tests, to put really strong documentation about why certain design decisions are being made.
Yeah, so I don't disagree. I just want to caution people. I think you're a research scientist
Mm-hmm.
and Bayesian and software engineer, and very precise and specific, wonderfully so with language, a wonderful communicator. So your version of not spec-driven development is one other person, a lot of people's versions of spec-driven
Oh,
development.
okay.
Like there'd be people who'd come in and be like, hey, build me a canvas with stuff connected, right? And that would be their version of
Okay,
not
I
spec-driven
see.
development. I just want to make that clear. It's kind of like
Okay.
there's this chart, right, of what people mean when they say probably or something is likely.
Yeah.
What percentage people would give that, and the distribution is absolutely wild.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Okay. I guess, my former manager at Novartis was a German guy, so he's trained me well. Um, very
the,
precise in language.
yeah, man, the only times I've had to ask you what do you mean are when I'm not smart enough to understand you, essentially. So it's
Oh
not
my
through
gosh,
lack
Gabriel.
of you. Um,
Okay.
all right. So where are we at? Just tell me which
We're
is
we're
this
midway.
using Composer, the Composer modeling cursor?
I'm using premium and versus auto, and I'm like, yeah, I could switch to composer, but again, also, like, I'm not interested in vendor lock-in. I really hate vendor lock-in. So
Well, the
that's
other
part of
thing though, I
why.
just want to make clear, and for people who haven't done this type of thing before, so something I practice, and I'm interested if you do, Eric, is using um, smarter, more reasoning, but models with more reasoning for planning, and then once you have a plan and get into execution, using
Yep.
lower latency, faster model,
Yep.
And actually, a lot of them have routers these days which will do that for you. I like a bit more control over that. How do you think about that?
Right. Yeah, I do definitely still use the Opus 4.6 or less and less on my personal life, less and less Chat GPT because I don't want to support OpenAI in its current state. Um, but Opus 4.6, GLM5, Minimax 2.7, those really powerful models, I'm definitely like in for like planning. And then for the less capable models, they're it's once I have a very precise level of planning down to even knowing roughly what the code should look like, that's when I would actually go in and like just use a cheap auto mode or something else. Yeah. Not 4.0. 4.0 is no good anymore compared to other models that are available on the market. But yeah, like 4.6 is one of my favorites for planning, that's for sure.
Yeah, and what you'll notice if you use Claude Code enough, it will plan with 4.6 and then send out Sonnet 4.6 to do some things, send out Haiku to do some other things, depending on what the task is.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, I mean this thing is cooking in the background. It's about at this point that I would, if I was at work, I'd go to the cafe and well, sorry, I work from the cafe. I would go to the barista and order a latte or something and then come back and see how far it's gone. Maybe we can address latent questions that are in chat if there are any.
I think we've been covering most of them. Seth has just mentioned he really likes Quen 3.5. So maybe you could tell us a bit about, your relationship with open weight
Oh,
models.
yeah. Gwen, I haven't tried it yet. I think I recently got it onto my machine, so I'm very eager to try that out. Even though I bought myself an expensive laptop for the purpose of running local LLMs, I did find, at least at the time that I bought it, the state of the art open weight models were either too slow to run on my Mac or they were um, cheap and therefore not as capable as the frontier models. Um, at this point, though, I'm much more excited to try some of the models, such as like Nemotron, for example, was pretty fast on my machine by NVIDIA. Um, let's see. I think Seth is saying like Quen 3.5 35B seems good. Okay, so I'm excited to try that. That's for sure. I actually recently learned that Olama has an MLX backend,
Mhm.
and so it's going to be really, much faster to run models there going forward on a Mac, apparently. So, some of the models that I thought were not so fast back in the day, definitely like really curious to try that. Yeah,
Awesome. Now, I am also interested. This is taking some time, which is
it is.
interesting.
It's
I mean, it's
normal.
doing something pretty serious, and I'm wondering with your feel for how these models can build svelte code, for example. What I like to avoid is getting it going off and doing something for too long where I think it may not do a good job. Then you have to debug and that type of stuff. So how do you think
Yep.
about that part of this process?
Yeah, that's a good one. I have been okay with we're working back old changes. While this is cooking in the background, maybe I can like preview a blog post that's coming out.
Awesome.
One of the blog posts that I recently put together is undoing vibe coded slop with AI. And that
Amazing.
was that that was my actual experience undoing a lot of slop that came with Canvas Chat, the first version. Because I Opus Maxed right from like I Opus Maxed a lot of Canvas Chat, and that just did and I didn't check the architecture. I didn't look at how code was organized. I was just like build, 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 build until it became really painful to add new features. And then that visceral pain and lack of speed really with like models taking their own sweet time digging through large, 10,000, 8,000 line files was something that I was really not happy about. So then what I did was I went in and I started doing, let me see if I come down over here, started doing these like refactors of like I basically chatted with AI and was chatted with Opus and was like, what are the opportunities for refactoring here? And then through the refactor, first off, it was like, let's split things up. Um, and so like, the initial design was like 8,500 lines. After I started doing splits of the features, app.js, which was this big, massive monolith, became progressively smaller and smaller. And after I started introducing additional and it was through this like splitting up of features into separate files that I came to realize that maybe we can do a plugin type architecture inside here. So then like I can write plugins external to Canvas Chat and have them registered at runtime through a config file and that sort of thing. And so then there's like this whole idea of like if you're going to put a plugin architecture, make sure you're dogfooding that architecture yourself. So I got AI to like help me make sure that this every feature that I could think of was plugin architectured basically. And so then now I guess as of the time of writing this blog post draft, Canvas Chat's main app.js file is still pretty big, but almost half the size of where it was before. The number of modules has exploded, but each one is small. It's only like a dozen to 100 lines ish, and so that makes context gathering a lot easier for the AI assistant itself. And that the key lesson was that I had to come in with an opinion of what I wanted. So yeah, so to go back to the original point, Hugo, it's that um, coming in and like uh, with a code architecture and coming in to really steer AI to do things the exact way that I want. I'm not as afraid of like doing things like large refactors anymore because a skilled engineer, a skilled software developer will know how to do incremental refactors. And so like the earliest days of like building something that's like a lot of stuff that we're seeing over here with um with the AI just running off and doing a whole bunch of stuff. One, I'm not afraid of that problem anymore because I have the confidence that we will be able to um, get around that through AI assistance, having done it once. And then two, even if, like, if I were to come back to Canvas Chat over here, even if AI goes off the rails, I'm coming in with an opinion of how I'm going to do the verification that what it built was correct. And part of that verification is not only the tests that are coming in, but actually clicking around and interacting with the application itself. So for that reason, it's like I'm I'm cool letting AI cook and me going off and thinking about other problems.
Fantastic. There is a question in the chat from Pascal. Do you ever use another model to refactor?
Yeah, good question. I I have used all sorts of models to do with all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so um you'll see me like midway through a session. Like I actually don't really my habit has been um whatever is the frontier open weight model that I can get at home at least, whatever's been my frontier open weight model that I can get my hands on, I will just use it and push it until I hit the limit provider limits, and then I'll switch models, and then hit it until I hit on it until I hit the limits of that provider, and then switch models again. And I have no problems with that. I've just gotten used to that, and I actually quite like doing that because again, it helps me stay non model provider agnostic in the way that I interact with AI. So, for example, if Anthropic had to go under and the Claude models were lost forever, I'd be okay switching to other models because the other I'm not like so used to the temperament or the personality, the style of Opus for example. Right? Like that's kind of the thing. And to answer Pascal's follow-up, like how do I coordinate those switches? If you're in open code, literally I just switch models midway and that's it. There's no problem, right? Because like open code lets me switch. I'm on Minimax right now, and if I need to switch to a new model and go to like GLM 5.1, the entire chat history is sent with every API call. So like this will do the exact same thing. Yeah, so
I mean, that's a bit more
there's no
sophisticated than I often do, like
oh
ghetto style. Like I'll be using Claude Code in the terminal, but then have, not quite refactoring, but get an adversarial critique by, Codex, where I have the plugin for Codex in VS Code, for example.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a great one actually. Uh it's yeah, actually now that you mentioned adversarial habits, it's actually great. It's a very underrated move, and like one of the ways that I remember prompting open code
Codex
was
is the best
switch back.
critiquer I've found so far.
Okay, cool. Good to know. The way that I've done it is like send an adversarial, sorry, not send, spin up an adversarial subagent to critique my work. And then like open code will have its subagent, which is free of the original chat window context, and do the critique and then surface it back up to for the main coding agent. And yeah, that's like it's kind of done that way. That's how at least how I've gotten to do it.
The other
I'm sure
thing,
there are other ways. Yeah.
I mean, Pascal mentions using handoff markdowns, and I'm actually, one thing I really like to do myself, and maybe it's because I've got control freak elements in some parts of my life, in many, absolute
Yeah.
chaos. But I really like to actively manage the context. I don't trust compaction. I mean, I've been burnt by compaction far too many times. Longer context. I mean, once Claude Code gets to 20% of its context window, it degrades, in my experience, for what I need to do.
Hmm.
So I've learned these such tips and tricks from Eleanor and Isaac, among other people, who I'm actually going to paste a link. We just wrote a blog post together. They've taught thousands of
Oh, cool.
people AI assisted software development. And so we did a podcast and wrote like the top 10 questions from the podcast and from their course. But one thing I like to do and learn from them is write a plan as you've been doing. And this is once we're going to the next step of things. And then once I have
Yep.
the plan, then switching to a cheaper model, as we talked about before, and faster model, and getting that model to check off the first in the to-do list, then write some notes,
Yep.
so little documentation in Agents Markdown, for example, or somewhere else, and then starting a fresh session after that. And so
Oh,
I
cool.
actively know what is going into the context each time, and particularly with larger projects, it means the models
Yeah.
just get less confused.
They get
And we
overwhelmed.
showed
Yeah.
this podcast actually that this is continual learning. Actually, guess what? You don't need to change the weights. You just continually update a markdown file, and you have continual learning. So
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, so AI is done. Add a single command dev launcher. Yeah, make it a Pixi task for me, please. All right, so let that happen.
tell us a bit about Pixi, Eric. One of our favorite projects.
Yes, Pixi makes me happy. I actually, a year and a half, 2 years ago, was it that at Moderna I put a career bet on we need to pull all the data scientists onto Pixi, and this was before Pixi became really popular. But Pixi turned out to be a great move because it is multilingual. It allows us to um, allows my colleagues and I to work in multiple languages. And after the advent of agent assisted coding, I've actually ventured way more into the R programming language alongside Python. I mean, most of my work is still in Python, but I'm no longer afraid of R and TypeScript, right? Which are the other two major languages that are in my professional life now. So yeah, it's a great one. And then when we had other issues like, pulling off the Pixie migration saved us a lot of money, and I'm happy to talk about that privately because given that this is like business stuff, but yeah, it's helped. So I'm very happy about Pixie.
So
Pixie run dev canvas.
I've linked to
Yeah,
Pixi
sorry,
in the
Hugo.
Discord and to your blog post. It's time to try out Pixi, and then to a live stream you and I did with Pixi about revolutionizing data science workflows with Pixi. I will say one more thing, and this is a little fun thing about Pixi. Wolf and team have made it so you can embed your Pixi environment metadata in PDFs, so that when you share a PDF of your scientific research with someone, that they're able to reproduce the environment from the PDF, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Okay, cool. So this is what it's got, and this turns out to be very different from what I wanted, because I've actually forgot to specify in my initial prompt that I would like to have a text prompt bar at the bottom that the human can use to input their message, and that will, upon hitting enter, will actually create a human node. So I'm just going to prompt the coding agent to do that. You built it wrong, mostly correct, but missing one critical feature. We need a text input at the bottom, a text input area for the user to input their message. And as soon as they hit enter, we need to see the human node show up. Other stuff that I'm seeing looks pretty cool. One thing that I want, the main motivator for me to want to try Svelte in this case was the Minimap down over here. So that was cool to see. If I create this human node, I'm just like experimenting with the UI for a moment. I can have the human node, the system node, and then, yeah, we're just missing the ability to send messages really. Okay, cool. So it has a composer text area. That's good. And wire enter to send. So a human node is created immediately with that message. Then it'll run the svelte checks. So it's doing what it needs to do. That's cool.
So so it's doing some testing, but you're kind of testing it now as well, right?
Yeah,
So in
yeah.
your mind, what is it? What tests are it writing? Is it writing, and what do you need to test at this point?
So it's writing whatever it thinks it needs to write, and I'm not going to control it intentionally at this point because I'm not walking in with a lot of strong opinions about what exactly needs to be tested. I will, just to recount Canvas chat development history. Um, there was a moment in time when Canvas, like I was using GLM 4.5 or GLM 5, and it was dropping curly braces in my JS files when editing, and I was getting page reload errors. And when I checked the JavaScript console, it ended up like telling me, "Oh, we're missing this curly brace," and so I was like, "What's going on?" So then I realized I needed to provide feedback really quickly to the coding agent, and that was like one of the first times that I remember. I might have had earlier times, but that was the first visceral moment that I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I have a very tight feedback loop to the coding agent. So then uh, what I instituted was like I dropped whatever I was doing, pivoted the conversation to let's set up Cypress end-to-end tests. And for the first time ever in my life, I wrote Cypress tests with AI help to figure out to make sure that as that so that I could send it immediate feedback that if it dropped a curly brace somewhere, the Cypress test which would attempt to load the page would error out and would also give the exact JS console errors back to the coding agent. And so then what started off with me getting the coding agent to write something and then I test manually, find that there's an error, copy and paste that error message back into the context window of the chat. What started off with that manual process, I just closed the air gap through immediate feedback and I could go hands-free. Later than I realized like GLM 5 at that or GLM 4.7, whatever it was at that time, was not a very competent model. But things have improved for the GLM family of models since then. But that harness, that harness that we call it the harness, right? But it's like that instant feedback loop was a very important part of the process of me being able to go much more hands-free with the model.
There are a
Cool.
couple more questions. I don't know if we want to take them now or
Oh
we can.
yeah. Let's do it now.
One Conrad had a bit up in the Discord. It's a really interesting question. He asks, "Do you work with many scientific sources, papers, PDFs?" I know the answer to that is yes, as do I. How to process scientific sources containing many formulas, and how do your research agents cope with scientific papers? A broader question is like PDF ingestion is still unsolved, right? In a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is
How do you
unsolved.
think about this?
I go to LaTeX source if I can. That's
Yep.
the best. But if you
Straight to the
can't,
source.
then you kind of just have to deal with it. Some ways, there's some places, some tricks you can try. If you really need to, if you're really watching the coding agent closely and it's got equations that you need to turn into Python code, then screenshot the equation, have it
Yes.
write out the LaTeX from the equation screenshot, or maybe even directly just write the Python code, whichever works for you. Yeah, that's kind of those are some of the tricks, I guess.
Well, I get
But
my
yeah,
open core to screenshot, do all my screenshots in that fashion for me now, and it does it
yeah,
pretty well. And maybe Claude Desktop or whatever the Claude Code UI thing that came out this week could be helpful with that as well.
yeah,
Seth has a
yeah.
question. Seth has a couple of websites. Hard time fixing with AI since he's a vibe coder and has so many knowledge gaps in understanding mistakes. Is it better to scrap a project and just make a better PID and start again?
Maybe it depends, I guess. Like, how far are you in? Is there too much sunk cost? Right? Those are important questions to think about. Um, If there are knowledge gaps, though, the best thing you can do is find a human expert who can coach you. And this is even in an age of AI where I use a lot of AI to help me with learning. Ultimately, I'll run into situations and scenarios where I just don't have the foundational grounding knowledge to understand how to proceed further, how to make things happen. So, yeah. Um, one classic example is me learning quantum computing, right? I don't have that foundation. I've been relying a little bit on my understanding of probabilistic models to help ground my understanding. But even my one-on-one today with Alexi, he was telling me, it's okay to use probability as a thing to understand and bridge the gap to quantum computing, but it's not going to be complete. You're going to be left with gaps and holes if you try to force everything that way. And right, like I wouldn't have that level of judgment. I'd come in with my Bayesian understanding of probability and go like, hey, look, I can understand a lot of stuff, but no, I'm not. Because it takes that human to really point out, oh yeah, you need to also include the fact, no, account for the fact that probabilities are the squares of amplitudes of your qubits, etc. And then like the amplitudes are a much better description of the quantum system than the squared amplitudes interpreted as probabilities. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, you see where I'm going with that? It's like the human touch is absolutely needed to make sure that my knowledge is grounded the right way. And I've done the same thing with analytical chemistry problems, with finance problems at work, spanning the full range and gamut of like problems that we see at work. So get a human colleague if you can, or find a human coach if you can to help bridge the ultimate, like real true gaps. If you are curious and autodidactic, it is possible to bring yourself up to a point where you're asking questions that are much smarter, that are not so basic, but you will hit a limit with AI. So
I also do
be
think I don't think
self-aware
we're
with that.
quite there yet. I think we are with a lot of things that are well represented in training data, not with everything yet. But I do think
Hmm.
you know how to get your AI assistants and agents to write good tests. You can get
Yep.
away without understanding much of the code. And I actually, this is, provocative, but I've been so surprised what's happened in the past year. I wouldn't be surprised if not only do we not write a lot of code, we actually end up not reading a lot of code somewhat sooner than others would expect,
Yeah, yeah.
because we're able to
It
use
has been
AI to, like, we don't read machine code, or I don't read C++, right? I read and write
right,
Python
right.
occasionally, but
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, you can see here, I haven't even opened up a single svelte file until this
yeah.
point, right?
And
So
the one
yeah,
other
that's
thing,
that's a great point.
Seth, if you built this with like Claude Opus 4.5, just throw the code to 4.6 and see what it does with it. Like, that's no joke. Like, often the new models can refactor your current code bases to just be way better. I think having good specifications in the end and good knowledge of what you want to test and why, are super important skills, though.
Yep. Okay, so we're back, and I think this is like one critical juncture in the development of, this Canvas Chat 2 thing, in that I just manually tested something and I verified that it's working the way I want it to. And so I would really want to harden that behavior at this point. And so I am actually going to start um, implementing both the docs hardening as well as the test hardening. So I verified that hitting enter allows me to create a new human node. This is good. Um, let's harden our intent docs plus um, tests. Use the design driven dev skill that I have to introduce, what are they again? Introduce high level design markdown, low LLDs, low level designs, and ears for Canvas Chat 2, starting with what you just successfully implemented. Once we're done with this, I want you to implement a dummy, because I'm gonna do this one with dummy auto reply to messages that I send that are from AI. I'm not ready to enter my provider ID and API keys live on YouTube, so we'll make do with auto replies that are canned, you should show that the replies are connected to the original human node that was sent.
And you can, I was going to say, you
Okay.
can also stop sharing your screen if you want to put your keys in. But
Oh, okay. Well, let me just check here. Oh, okay. Actually, it might work because it's asking me for API key and var. Yeah, and I'll just maybe just drag it off to another screen. Use docs, yes. Phase the checkpoints handle, just fast track. Yeah. You know what, Hugo? I never realized that like I'm that precise with AI, as you had mentioned, because I considered like what I had originally typed to be pretty imprecise, actually. It's funny that you're saying that what I was typing was maybe someone else's specification. Um, have you seen that
oh,
with
totally. Well,
others?
that's why I framed it as you're, a research scientist at Moderna, right? With
Okay, okay.
background in, science, software engineering, Bayesian
Okay,
statistics,
maybe.
like where and as an educator, you're wonderfully precise and specific.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, maybe. Um, yeah, the comment got me like becoming very self-aware about how I'm speaking, but then I also realized some of my colleagues tell me I have an AI voice and that when I'm doing dictation to AI, I'm not doing it today, but like if I'm doing dictation to AI, suddenly the way I speak changes. It's a, it's a very
Yeah,
interesting thing.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we have, a girlfriend voice or a wife voice, an AI voice, a mum voice. Like when you, um, well, I am interested. You're not dictating. I did notice you were typing, but saying it aloud as well. And dictation is one of the wonderful things about dictation is
It
speech to
is.
text still isn't as great as I would have thought it would be. But LLMs don't care as well. So using
That's right.
Super Whisper, for example, or Whisper
Yep.
Flow, great
Yep.
tools. I mean, I've always
100%.
hated typing, dude, except when like writing essays or like trying to get ideas out. The speed of typing allows my mind and the speed at which I'm getting words out to kind of evolve together I think at an important rate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Today I chose not to because I think like in an education setting, it's important for me to be able to show like pace things out. So typing is helping to pace things out. But yeah, usually be just dictating. Um, okay,
So one
so
other
hey
thing I know
there.
before going on
Woo!
is often in my agents.markdown, especially when doing something like this, I will say commit early, commit often. And I notice we're not getting your agent to commit anything to GitHub yet.
Not yet. It's habits. I think the juncture at which I would like to do a commit is at the juncture where I have a unit of work that I'm feeling comfortable is working.
Okay.
And so the unit of work that I want to see working at this juncture is actually where we're at, which is I send a message and I have a canned reply back and they're connected and I'm like, okay, this is great, right? Okay, this is great. Now all commit everything. Sorry, now open a new PR for me. So we'll let the coding agent tackle that. And then while it's doing that, I'm going to continue planning out what I would like to see. So we'll start with a screenshot here. Let me just grab the screenshot from the other screen. The color scheme is horrible. Contrast is low. I don't see different colors for different node types. Help me implement this, and we'll just um, let it fix all the things that it needs to fix. I'm a little nervous to queue up this one until um, the commit goes through. Yeah, there are pre-commit hooks that I've installed here,
Hmm.
and those are very important for enforcing consistent style and the likes. Pre-commit hooks were annoying in pre-coding agent days. They're actually pretty handy post-coding agent, you know. Yeah. So I like the fact that we have these coding um, these things here. Okay, let's see. Are there other um, questions that are coming up?
I think we've covered everything for the time being.
We cover everything. Yep. Seth, your point about like getting AI to teach takes a bit of work to manage, but it really works. Yeah. Using AI to learn is really powerful, definitely. I actually remember GPT 3.5 days. I was working on something in the analytical chemistry space, and the term percent %A and percent %B came up, and I was like, man, I'm so untrained. This is so basic. This must be really basic for an analytical chemist. So then I was like, okay, uh, all right. What is I asked 3.5, what is percent %A and percent %B in analytical chemistry? And it told me it is the percentage of aqueous versus organic solvent that is sent through the column, chromatography column. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So what does that mean? And then it gave me an explanation of like how this is used for separation and stuff. And immediately I went and like checked with one of my colleagues, Ted Liska, and I was like, "Hey Ted, is this correct? AI gave me this explanation. Is this correct?" And he was like, "Yep, sounds right. Good undergrad would like understand this if they were in the analytical chemistry space." So I was pretty happy about that. And since then, I've just used AI to help me learn a lot of things, as long as I can find a human to verify the information. All right, let's let's get this one going. The color scheme is horrible. Contrast is low, etc. So I think maybe I should also explain a little bit about why I was like enamored with Svelte Flow. It's the mini map, right? I don't have a mini map in Canvas chat. Where's Canvas chat again? Right? I don't have a mini map here in Canvas chat. So it becomes kind of sometimes challenging maybe to figure out where exactly I am in here, right? And so I really want, for that reason, I was really, really excited to try Svelte Flow to see what it would look like. So let's see. Let's see what it comes up with.
While we're waiting on that, something really interesting is happening in that in this conversation with the agent, you're using words to tell it what you want. It's hopefully
Yep,
extracting intent in some sense, but you've got
yep,
this huge thread going on, right? And there are
yeah,
interesting products and frameworks which allow us to share those with colleagues. But essentially, if you were to share this code base with a colleague who you wanted to work on it, the code is perhaps less important than your intent, right? So being
yep,
able to share the thread, uh, or at least a summary of it, becomes increasingly important, right?
yep, that's right. I think a lot of there is a skill that I remember seeing, which was a skill that you would invoke right at the end of a portion of your build that would dump the contents of the chat history and well it wouldn't dump, it would take the contents of the chat history and write a what was done and why log. So that's one way to share that information. Another one that I'm uh been relying on here has been the um another one that I've been relying on here has been the use of the high level design, low level design, the ears to get the golden spec of what I actually want um, inside the code repo as well. So those are two ways. If I'm using open code, it actually gives me the ability to save the chat session history in its entirety as a markdown file, including all compaction that might unfortunately take place. Um, so there are multiple mechanisms of making this happen. All right, let's see here. Looks like, hold on. Why am I unable to type anything in this chat
It
window.
looks like you're typing in Discord right now, actually.
It does. The funny thing is, I now have my cursor inside here. Oh, there we go. Cursor has sometimes had some issues. All right, cool. This looks great. Let's harden the docs plus tests. Use DDD skill to add to docs and to HLD, LLD ears and add tests. And finally commit and push on PR branch. While it does that, I'm going to then ask for the next thing. Next thing I'd like is the ability to select a node and hit delete button on my keyboard to delete it from the canvas, as well as the ability to select a node and reply to it. And from the, what did the AI call this? It called it the message console. Did it call it that? I just need to make sure that I know what it's calling it. It's not the message console. Oh, message composer. So this is one of those things where I don't have a word for the thing that it built, but it has a word for it. So I'm trying to learn the vocabulary so that I can be as precise as possible.
Yeah, that's interesting because I probably would
Yeah.
have been lazy and just asked it. I would have been like, "Oh, what's the name? What do you call that thing that does this thing?"
There's actually now that you mention it, there's a way for me to be imprecise from this element, and then use cursor's thing to select just this guy, and I'll put that in the context. Cool.
While that's running, we've got a question from Keaton. How often are you creating new custom subagent definitions and invoking them, as opposed to either letting the models do their own subagent delegation or writing agent skills, but not whole subagent personas?
I'm doing a lot more of agent skills. I think maybe my brain isn't really wired for subagent definitions. I'm starting to suspect that because people are finding, like, they're telling me about all these subagents that they're creating, and I'm just like, well, I just tell it to, on occasion I will tell the main agent exactly what I want, and it'll just do the subagent thing. Yeah, I haven't done too much of like subagent delegation, but that's not to say it's useless. I think it's, for folks, it can be useful. And if it's useful for you, I would encourage you to like make full use of it, really.
Yeah, but also if you think it's useful, but could do it in a skill, remember skills are portable between
Right.
different frameworks and different agents. Of course, not all of them may use them exactly the same, but remember your
Yeah.
sub-agent definitions can lock you in. So I'm pretty bullish on skills, particularly because you can get them to execute particular functions, the progressive disclosure nature of all of them.
Yeah.
I'm more often pulling back my agents from creating sub-agents for certain things because I need the agent that I'm working with to have more context than its sub-agents will give it. So if it's just execute and write something, write a file, write a code base, totally fine. But if it's understand what's happening somewhere or ingest a document, and if they send out, like Claude will send out an explore subagent and it will get back a summary, and it literally won't know what I think it should know about.
Yeah. Pascal has this like really neat comment. It's useful if parallel and then still watch out for context. There's one scenario that I've used like subagents in exactly that way, which is when I tell the main coding agent, give me the like if I'm writing a blog post and I've had a bit of AI assistance to get my transcripts more organized. And then like I'll tell the coding agent, tell me what the three main claims are in this blog post, and then for each of those, send out individual subagents to fact check what I've written or what I've dictated.
Absolutely.
And then it'll do its web search, and it doesn't need my coding. Yeah, but then I don't have a fact check sub agent. I have just me prompting exactly what I want this fact checking to be all about, right? Like it's
Yeah.
fact check it along a certain dimension because I think I'm going to be wrong potentially along that dimension or something else, like that sort
And
of thing.
I didn't mean to convey that subagents aren't useful. I find them incredibly useful. I just haven't found creating
Yeah,
subagent definitions manually or
right,
bespokely useful for me at all.
right.
Yeah, the
Same here. Same
parallelization
here.
stuff. Also, getting them to, once I get Codex to provide a critique of an adversarial critique of my code base, getting different agents to work on different parts of the code base, parallelizing that with subagents can be incredibly useful if you have it modular, which you
Yeah,
should for the most part.
that's right. So I'm going to try out what was just implemented. I selected this node and I'm going to hit send. And it did the right thing, but the node placement is kind of weirdo. So, but it is doing the right thing, right? Like I have a reply, there's an auto reply, etc. That's great. Cool. I'm feeling good about this. What was the other thing that I said? I need the ability to delete it, so I can hit delete. Yay, that works. That works as well, and that works as well. Okay, cool. This 1.5, yeah, was 1.5. We're close to the end of the session. Is that right, Hugo?
Yeah, we've got around 6-7 minutes left. We can go a bit
6 minutes. Yeah. Okay, I can go a bit over as well. Not a problem. Um, this is kind of there. Not 100%. But this was actually how roughly the first 3 hours of me building Canvas Chat went. I back then I of course didn't have like this concept of hardening the intent and hardening the tests, right? So hardening the docs and the tests once I made something work with AI help. So that's a new thing that I didn't have before. Um, the tech stack that I used back then reflected a lot of the fears of JavaScript that I had before, and that I was very conservative, not going like it was fast API with plain JavaScript, no TypeScript, no nothing. It was very plain JavaScript and CSS, and that was that was reflected in the current Canvas chat stack. If I As I'm redoing it, there are choices that I would totally redo, right? Like using Svelte instead, and having a different yeah, all sorts of different things I would just do differently. um I think it's maybe time to study the code a little bit, and in my case I'm actually studying the code because I want to under I want to have some,
You're
it's
so
not
old school,
true
Groq.
understanding, but it's kind of just me being curious about how good TypeScript could be written, how it needs to be written, etc. And so, yeah, I'd look at the code as a way of satisfying my curiosity on, yeah, my old school curiosity on what constitutes good, possibly good code.
But how do you get that out of it? Because for the most part, they don't write good code.
Yeah, there's some parts where they look like TypeScript and JavaScript look quite like Python in many ways. So there are patterns that I can possibly appreciate. So for example, the try catch finally is like try except finally in Python.
Mhm.
And this would be when I see a chunk of code like this, I immediately am smelling, okay, AI is being like extra careful. And then I'd look to see whether the catch statement is necessary, etc. You know what I mean? Like that level of checking is what I'm looking for. I'm not really looking for the specific syntax.
It's
I
incredible
also
how
can't,
often they're
yeah,
overly cautious with so many things, but then
yes.
just like have placeholders for other stuff that's essential. Like you
Yes.
could build something like this and it'll just send placeholders through the entire chat, or like the
Yes.
first 10 characters to save something. It'll be like, oh, I was just trying to save something.
Yes. So it's the ragged frontier, right? And at the same
Okay.
time, what I'm now looking for is I'm looking for these spec tags, these comments, right? These are matching up lines of code to the uh, specific ears that are being written, right? So like node delete ears, node delete 001, 002, etc. And that's part of me trying to make sure that we can the harden the thing. That said, I'm starting to notice parallels to what happened the first time around with Canvas Chat in that I've got page.svelte and it's long. How many lines is this? 717 lines long just for this piece. So I'm probably gonna, like, if I'm to continue, I'm definitely in this thinking about like we need to refactor page.svelte because it's gonna be way too big for this. Um, yeah. So that's that's kind of the main thing that's going through my head now with this guy. Maybe let's try one final thing. I'm just going to drag this over and to a separate window and grab an API key. So let me think. I'm going to try .env export Groq API key. I'm using Groq. I can't stand Twitter. Um, let's go for Canvas Chat, the main one. I'm just going to grab over an API key real quick into the other window. All right. I saved Groq API key in .env. I want to be able to use it in the app. Tell me how to do so. Pardon me for this. I was typing with my API key visible. So if I remember correctly, Groq API key is the envar I need. API base would be optional. And I'll do what are the light LLM models that are available? Groq models. Model equals Groq / any model on Groq. Let's just take one of those from the docs. So we'll try that. Oh, provider ID is Groq. Okay, let's see. And then active on server, check, save provider. So now when I wire up, now that I've wired up my NFARs, I'd like to be able to get a real response from the LLM within the message composer element. Sorry, after I hit send on the new message composer element. Okay, so we'll try that.
Eric, while
Okay.
that's running, we just have a
Yep.
great question from Conrad. How much time do you spend building and improving your research assistants in comparison to using them to help you learn new things?
That's a good one.
They're not distinct processes, though.
They're not. Um,
Like agent skills, right? When you're using a skill, you'll often tell the agent, "Hey, can you update this skill with what we just did?" So it's actually there's some continuous loop. Sorry, I partially answered
yep.
a question from my experience,
Yeah,
but how
yeah,
does this apply to your
that's
case?
part of it. That's part of it. When I get AI to search stuff for me, it hasn't really been more than just fact-finding missions. So I'm not really using research assistants in the sense of it's going to go off and do a lot of stuff autonomously. When it comes to agentic like data sciencey things, figuring out whether something is possible, I really do like to be in control, and not allow the agents to go off in a yeah, go crazy with the analysis and then just write a report for me. That's not really been the style. So a lot of my so when it comes to research assistants, like when it comes to learning new things, especially, there has to be friction in the process for me to retain any information. I think that's something we're uh underappreciating, I guess, in an age of AI. Sorry, hold on. Let me just bring this back. Yeah. I think that's something we're underappreciating in an age of AI. And, we've been spoiled by things like, what is that, Duolingo and stuff that are trying to make learning things easier. But really, learning theory, you should know this as well, right? Like Hugo, you, you want to have that appropriate amount of friction in place, right? So I don't get my research agents to tell me the answer. I ask it to do the tedious fact-finding thing that I can then use to process the info myself. That's like maybe some other thing. But that said, Conrad, I fear I may not have answered your question um exactly. So if that, if you could be maybe refine based on what Hugo and I have responded, that might be helpful as well to draw out, the latent answer in both our heads.
So
Okay.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
have a look at what you've done, and we can wrap up.
Okay, cool. So let's see. If you still see canned replies, set this and restart the backend. Okay, let's just try it first. Um, Tell me more. And it's a canned AI reply. Groq expects Groq API key, but it's not there. Hold on. Okay, I will restart the server. So Pixi run dev canvas 5173. It's got its thing. Model, I need to type this in again, Groq. And back to here, copy that model name. API base optional Groq API key, active on server, save provider. And why is it hung? Okay, it seems like it'll be there. Hey there. Something went wrong. Not sure what's going on. Save as provider. Yeah, it's behaving in ways that I'm not exactly sure. This is when I would go into a debug loop, but I'm cognizant of time.
Yeah.
Hugo, your call. I'll throw the ball back in
Well,
your court.
I'm happy to do one more loop, and we can explain to your
Okay.
agent what we're seeing and see if we can fix it, and then wrap up.
Yep. All right, cool. Um, I'm noticing behavior when I have reset the server, but sorry, restarted, but when I type hey there in the text box and hit send, the UI hangs for a moment and nothing shows up on the canvas. Additionally, I have set the Groq API key. Oh, wait, before we go on, I have one hypothesis. Source.env, and then run this one more time. It might be that I didn't set the API key correctly. Didn't have the API key loaded, sorry. So we'll
Classic.
try this. Groq API key, Groq, and llama 3, etc. And let's check active on server. Give it a moment. Well, there we go. Hey there. And okay, still a problem. I've set the Groq API key. I have sourced in.env. I have sourced.env, restarted the server, and we're still seeing this issue. Additionally, when I try to configure a provider, I set this information, and I'm just going to point it to here with, and to be extra explicit, these values as shown in screenshot. However, once I hit save provider, again, the UI hangs for a few seconds and nothing appears to happen. What's going wrong? Debug for me. Propose solutions. Don't implement just yet. I want to understand the problem.
Now, this is one of the amazing things about open claw type things, where I can get it to build something and then on its own dedicated sandbox or Mac Mini, whatever it is, go and test, like click around and type things into it and that type of stuff based on specs we've discussed. And that's also, I suppose, one of the things that, we've got Claude Code, whatever it is they announced this week, that can go around and click around UIs it creates and that type of stuff. So we're going to see a lot more. And of course, this is something you and I used to discuss with AI generating slides, like the horrible nature of visual feedback loops, right? And when we get AI having good navigability with visual feedback loops as well, it's going to supercharge all of this.
Yep. And I'm going to do one more thing as well. I want you to double check that things are working using the agent browser CLI, as well as taking over the browser tab that's open. All right. So you, as instructed, I have killed the dev server. You should do the same. You should launch the dev server in a terminal process, but source.env before you launch it, and then go and use agent browser to interact with the server, with the app. Okay, and as soon as I bring out agent browser, usually that's at the point where we're going to be able to really solve a lot of problems. So it's either agent browser or getting cursor to literally click around on the UI itself, and it's pretty magical. And if you're curious about like what agent browser is, it's by Vercel, and it will allow us to do things like click, fill, get text, screenshot, page, etc., that sort of thing. Get
So
values of certain things.
for this, didn't you?
Yeah. Pardon me?
You used to use Stagehand for this type of thing, didn't you? Or
No, agent browser was the first one that I was really able to use.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it started.
Cursor also has its own inbuilt tools to do this type of thing.
Exactly. So it's using the inbuilt browser. Good navigation. It's doing its thing. It's going.
I discovered that a weird way it was over Christmas when I was trying to like scrape all my own YouTube stuff because the API wasn't working from the Vanishing Gradients channel. And so Cursor did it without me knowing. It opened, I had a tab in front of it and it opened YouTube. And the next day I came back and there was Christmas music playing from my laptop. And my computer didn't recognized it was coming from Cursor, and I couldn't figure it out. It took me about an hour, or maybe even more. And finally, I realized Cursor had YouTube open inside it in a tab that was covered by another tab, playing a 6-hour like Jingle Bells playlist.
That is hilarious.
That's the banal dystopia we have these days.
Yep. Yep. Okay. That is crazy. Okay, so it actually figured out a possible solution, root cause. So let's see. We come back to here, what the root cause issue is. Upload's fine. Your graph stores roles as that, but Groq uses this. Okay, and additional issues that it fixed. Let's try.
So what did it say the issue was?
It said a few things, but I think the root cause was my roles are human AI system, but Groq
Yeah.
uses user assistant system. So we probably need to like do a few other things, do these mapping of roles. And if I were to be really opinionated, I would actually just say, let's just use user assistant system rather than do this mapping. Um, yeah, but I'm not being very precise right now. So, let's try, let's try.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Pascal, you're suggesting inspect the browser and see what the error is in the console. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, the cursor inbuilt browser will let you do that, and I think agent browser also exposes as part of the CLI the facility to inspect the JS console as well. So yeah. Cool. Let's see. It's doing its thing. It's going to take its time. We're now at a place in software development, Hugo, where like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's like there are many moments here where I if we were not on live stream, I would have stood up, did a little walk, get some water, come back, that sort of thing,
Oh, was it you who sent me an app, or did I send it to you? Maybe you sent it. One of us. It's one which it reminds you when your agent starts going through things. It sends you a notification saying "stand up and stretch."
Get fit.
Yeah, get fit. Exactly.
Yes,
That's
get fit.
hilarious.
That was hilarious. So what's it doing? The backend API is missing cores headers. Okay, that apparently was one of the issue that was found. But also this isn't a model. I'm actually gonna hold on. We need to do one more thing.
Get fit.
We
Your
should
AI agents
use
push code. You push iron.
yes, exactly. Change the model to GPT OSS 120B and try again. Take control of the browser or use agent browser. Cool. I think Vinod asked for corporates who are new to AI, where do they begin? Um, wow, that's a great question because I think one of the because it's so vast, it's very hard to give a single answer that covers everyone. Maybe for non-coder types, I think the that a good starting point is to try to use uh, coding agents such as Claude Code or Claude Cowork or Open Code if you're set up for that. That's a little bit more technical. Or, if your company is still stuck with OpenAI Stack, then the Codex app is a good place to start. Especially the Codex app, it having access to files on your file system. That would be where I would start and just start using it to try to do things that you would have done manually. You'll notice I did a bunch of things like git commands at my inside OpenCode. I was just like, don't even bother with writing git commands anymore. I'll say open a pull request for me, right? Like you kind of need to get a feel for what the coding agent is capable of, whether it's capable of solving a problem in a way that you can imagine would be plausible. So for example, in my case, I, recently figured out how to parse almost every I figured out how to parse every Office document type into Markdown so I could ingest it into my knowledge vault, my Markdown knowledge vault, um, and then just use that instead to understand stuff. And that was one example of trying to use trying to use trying to use AI to just solve a problem for me. And so it really boils down to just to answer, the other part, like what tools, which tools to use, what those tools are, doesn't really matter. It starts with just solve one problem with AI in your day to day, and then branch out from there. Whatever is your first problem. My first problem many years back it was whatever it was, but now people like hate making slides, so they're absolutely thrilled when I show them the HTML slide creator skill that one of my colleagues created. And then now they're like, oh, AI can do this for me, right? And they see how we set it up for them and see how that configuration process looks like, and they get it now. So then they're more willing and adventurous to try. I think in a separate blog post I did write, sometimes you don't know what you can do because of a lack of exposure and therefore imagination. So it takes interacting with people who are naturally curious, self-directed to try things out as a starter to get that source of inspiration. And sometimes you're not sure what to do with AI because of a skill gap, in that the skill gap actually they interplay with each other. If you don't know what's possible, it's possibly because you don't know how to do the thing in the old pre-AI way. So then, like, in this weird interplay, if you do know how to do a thing the pre-AI way, you might have that ability to imagine the possibilities. But then if you see the possibilities from someone else, maybe you'll be inspired to think through the mechanism of how things are being executed underneath the hood by AI, and therefore come up with new ways, new and creative ways through mixing and matching, right? Like that's my take. So get a lot of exposure. Yeah, get a lot of exposure to
So let me
other
just add,
people's stuff.
I totally agree. I think so. Asking what tools to use, don't worry about it. I can tell you a heuristic for tools. Use tools that you will have support around. Encourage people to do that. If
Yes.
somebody works in a place and people use Claude there, get them to use Claude. So then they have a community around it. Now, to Eric's point, start things that are time consuming for you. Have a think of whether you think AI could do that. Chat with a few people, then try it. Then things that you ask other people to do for you, start trying those things. But these are things that are done already and people do. Super important, right? But then the third thing
Yeah.
is dream big. I mean, I think Henry Ford famously said, or apocryphally said at least, if we would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? Now, I don't care whether that's true or not. But my point is, if you're looking at this and saying, how can I speed up what I'm doing now? That's not the only question to ask. Just imagine if when computers came out or the internet came out, people solely focused on how they could achieve the same things. That isn't to say you can't get huge increases with efficiency. Look at word processing, right? But what I'm
Yep.
saying is after getting more efficient at things that frustrate you, that take too long, stuff that other people do for you, start dreaming bigger in terms of the tools to use. Use tools that people around you use if you're starting out. If you have more time, experiment with other ones. Meet people in online communities. Bring people here. We can all build stuff like this
Yeah.
together. You've just been introduced to
Yeah.
10 tools today.
Yeah. Okay, yes, I think that's right. Okay,
Dude, you like we didn't really delve into you using like open weight GLM in with open router in CMux. I mean, that could be a whole live stream, right? So now we're in
yeah,
cursor.
CMux. I'm yeah. If you're curious about what CMux is, it's basically Ghosty, but the Ghosty terminal, but create like with sessions, workspaces, or whatever you want to call it. So it's extended. It's like a skin around Ghosty, the terminal. Um, so it's pretty cool to use, though it has its flaws, and so I'm also trying to think of other ways to um you know, interact with coding agents. There's one that I told Hugo about a little while before, which was this thing that I was building out to, interact with open code, but in a Kanban board style thing, which I know folks have done before, but it's like, tell me a joke, right? Like if I did something like this and I did Minimax M2.7 on Olama Cloud and I created that, like I can queue up tasks to do stuff, and then when it's done, it'll, complete over here, and I'll visually see that it's complete. Because if I wanna like if I have four things in parallel that I'm running across like three projects, it's really hard in vanilla CMux to know exactly what's going on without this notification thing that I've read or not read and that sort of thing. So like I had this hypothesis that this was a UI that I might find useful, um, right? And to be able to interact with the coding agent, like to interact with open code in the background this way is also pretty handy, I guess. But yeah, that's completely for another day. Like I don't think we should like over-index on this today. But yeah, it's pretty it's fun, right? Like with coding agents, you can really do a lot of stuff that just was really tedious and time consuming before, right? And so yeah, if you know how to code and you know how to do this yeah, if you know how to code, this is like a new era of stuff that we can do now. It's pretty cool.
Amazing. So I do want to say, what Eric and I are thinking of doing another session on what he just showed. Do follow his blog,
Oh
which I've
man.
linked to. I mean, a good UX for orchestrating open code is super exciting. Also do subscribe to the Vanishing Gradients newsletter if you want these types of updates. So how did this turn out? Do you think? Because we probably should wrap up soon.
Yeah, it's still going. I'm gonna I'm gonna make a call. I think like given a little bit more time, uh I will be able to figure it out, but now might not be it's not gonna it's I don't my Bayesian posteriors are we won't finish within the next minute or so.
Makes sense. Well, keep us updated. Let us know in the Discord how you go. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. The best way you can support this, all of this independent AI data ML education that we do, is share it with a friend who you think might find it interesting, and like and subscribe wherever those things are. Do follow Eric's blog and on Substack as well. So much wonderful stuff there. Most of all, Eric, thank you so much for your time and wisdom, and also fun, man. Like
Yeah.
this is some of the most fun and exciting stuff we have the pleasure of doing professionally ever. I
Yeah,
think so. Appreciate you,
exactly.
man.
Yeah, thanks Hugo. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Real pleasure. All right, thanks everyone. See you next time.
All right.